Nightly Musers, followers of the pod, faithful few and hopeful many. This is Anchor by Spotify. If you haven't heard about it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's the very platform that allows me to give you what I give you on the nightly. So let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And it gives you the ability to distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally FREE free. So here's where you come in. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is ANCHOR.fm to get started. Thank you very much. Peace. What's good, Nightly Musers? This is your host, Tinayeshe, and welcome to the Nightly Muse. Shoutout Lo-Fly, the guy that makes the music possible, the grooving to the music for the musing. Appreciate you. So today, I played at a funeral. This was technically the first funeral I've ever played at as a worship director, in my career, I guess, as a worship director. Assistant worship director is my exact title, for those wondering. And man, it's really sweet to be able to minister or be there for or serve a family that is grieving in the way that I was able to. But there were just a lot of things that I noticed in that. It's my first time doing a funeral or being a part of a funeral for somebody who was older, in their 70s, I believe. And just seeing there were 3 people that seemed to exhibit symptoms of Parkinson's and things of that nature. And it was just wild, seeing that older generation of friends, and I don't know. I often go to I often find myself at events like weddings, and I guess now funerals are included, where I will see something that makes me think, man, when I get married, I want it to feel like this. Obviously, for my funeral, I won't have much of an opinion because I'll be dead. But I feel like weddings are different because of invitations. But invitations aside, weddings and funerals, I think, are 2 really neat ways that you can learn about somebody and who they really are. With a wedding, you can learn about the couple because of the testimonies, the toasts, the celebration. Is it jovial? It's a happy time. There's a lot of celebration, and that's sweet. But you can also see the families joining together and really, you can tell when it's a marriage that both parties are really, really looking forward to and viewing as a net positive. And so with funerals, though, and specifically in the Christian faith, to see the afterlife, right? It's something that we all believe. It's eschatology, I believe, is the phrase, right? Or is it epistemology? Eschatology. I was right. Sorry. I was fact checking myself. But eschatology, right? That's something that we all think about. It's something we may not all study it, but it's something that most people have pondered. And in our faith, right, we believe that death on this side is not the end, right? It's the first step towards life everlasting. And so the person who passed had struggled with illness for a very long time, a degenerative illness, and there's that with those cases. I can only imagine there being a desire for when death seems inevitable and the nature of it seems like it'll be also extremely difficult and painful. You kind of hope that when it happens quick, that it's not a ton of suffering and all of that. But truly to be in that room and to see the amount of people that were there. My goodness, it was like a church service, the amount of people that showed up for like a big church. That room was not, it was not empty. And that like alone, right? All these people showing up to let go, to lay somebody to rest, to say goodbye and to celebrate and to remember was so sweet and so encouraging to see the legacy that somebody left. All the trinkets, all the awards, all the medals, all the things that you collect as you live, they will collect dust. They will rust. They will become obsolete. Or even if they appreciate, you won't be able to reap the benefits of it. And so the only thing that you really get to, the thing that I got to see that really mattered was, though the person who is passed is leaving behind people that love them, to be able to see like a room full of people whose lives have been affected, or at the very least who felt it important to be present in that space, to remember and honor that life. Like that is, to me, like one of the biggest, most authentic forms of like, man, you did a good job. You lived well, is when people are like, it's somber, right? It's painful to lose somebody. The joy of heaven receiving another soul, but also the coming together to share stories and remember a life well lived. Like that is special. And so yeah, it's a weird, funerals just, it leaves me in my head a lot, which I guess gives me content to say or to talk about, because here I am. But it was an interesting time. So to John, thank you for the life that you lived and the opportunity that you gave me to help be a part of celebrating your life and ministering to your family. I'll leave it there because I'm not going to put anybody's full name on blast that I cannot reach out to or ask for permission for. But anyway, yeah, it was really sweet. And I'm also in this, like, I've talked about it before, this season of my co-host Teve hates, he views the phrase season outside of a sports context as very Christian-y. Which I understand. But anyway, in this season of kind of trying to take a pause and say no to kind of extracurricular worship engagements, there are a few things that I can't say no to. And one of them is funerals. If I'm in town, I will do it. The other would be a wedding, which weddings I'd have more notice, and that's kind of like a gig. So that I would be able to say no to if I really wanted to. But funerals, especially this one, the man passed away on my birthday. And I had one interaction with him that was really sweet. And somehow, when our pastor let us know that he had passed away, something in my spirit just like, I knew it was him because I couldn't remember his name. So then I checked and I was like, oh my goodness, it was him. And when they reached out to me, I was just kind of like, I felt too tethered to the person randomly in the way that I found out the information and all of that, to feel like I could say no even if I like wanted to. Yeah, I did not feel like I could, but I wanted to say yes. Like it was already a decision I'd made in my mind when they asked. And so, I don't know, there are just certain moments like that where I feel like God weaves stories together, and you just don't know. I mean, the only other funeral I played at, I did not know the person. I was asked to play at a kind of prayer vigil thing that was also had some worship components, and I was available, so I played at it because it was close to where I lived, and I just said yes. And that tethered me to their family, to where they asked me to play at, their family member's funeral, and I didn't know the person. And so, specifically with funerals, and I think I've shared this before, but with my little bro that's in heaven, Colby, brother in love, not like marriage, but like, I love that kid and he chose me. I guess brother in Christ, but I didn't go to that funeral. I had experienced like 5 deaths that year of people that were really close to me. And by then I was just worn out emotionally and didn't go. And I always regretted that. And death was always it's hard for everyone. But my uncle died of cancer that year. Another lady in our church, my uncle died when I was 7. But that lady in my church, that same year that Colby passed away, she died of breast cancer, and Colby had a tumor in his brain, I believe. There was just a lot of like painful, it's gone and then it comes back type deal with cancer and tumors and stuff, and I was just done. And so God has done a lot of work in my heart as it pertains to kind of that, I guess death and grief. I don't necessarily feel like I grieved well when I was younger, and to a degree I didn't grieve well. I didn't process it well as an adult, because there was a part of me that just didn't feel like what was on the other side was better than what was here, right? I always felt like God was taking something away from me and not bringing something home into himself. right? Like bringing us into full communion with him again. I viewed it as you're stripping something away from me that I adore, someone that I love, someone that I want to spend more time with. And so it's been interesting playing at this funeral because this was the first funeral that I played at where if it were a relative, if it were somebody that I really, really knew well, though it would be painful as ever, I probably wouldn't be able to sing at the wedding because tears would be streaming down my face, and when I cry I get choked up and I can't sing very well. It's not the greatest vocal technique, crying. That being said, when a funeral comes, because it will, of somebody that I know, given them being a Christian as well, like to be able to really believe that they're going somewhere that's better than here. Like that, this was the first opportunity, the crossover of my perspective to really be in a space where I was like, man, like it's a little easier when somebody is ill, because it's like, no more pain, or they won't be sick anymore and all of that stuff. But like to really, really believe their absence in my life is better because they will be present with the Maker, the person who will love them more than I ever could. Like that is a sweet feeling. And so I look forward, I don't look forward to another funeral. But I am happy about that perspective change, because I do think that there is something to be said about the celebration, right? It is something to grieve. That is the place to grieve and mourn. But to see that, like I literally got to see different phases, even within certain people that were very close to the person that passed. There was a laughter in sharing of stories, and a breaking down in remembering sweet memories, and all of those things together, right? And the celebration of the faith and the life that he lived. There was so much of that just happening over and over and over again, and to really like experience it in that way. And it's okay to be a mess too, right? Like that's not, the point of this is not to say that, man, like it'll be sweet, like, because I won't be sad because they're, no, it's like I'm not going to be emotionally like ignorant or whatever, or like unacknowledging. I don't even know if that's a word, but like I'm going to acknowledge the fact that it's a sad thing to lose someone. But that the juxtaposition of you're losing and knowing that it's not the end of the story. And that's a beautiful thing in a confusing and mysterious way. That is the life that we live. And that's really all I got for tonight. Fly to Jesus and live, Mr. John. That is was a song I played. It was Untitled Hymn by Chris Rice. The last stanza. Fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus and live. Shout out Lo-Fly. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nightly Muse. I'm your host, Tinayeshe. And that's all I got.